Share screens. Okay, so those of you who are viewing from home and for those of you in attendance here, this is a Repair Reserve Fund public hearing in reference to plans for our auditorium and weight room next year, and looking to make improvements to those two facilities and to draw down the Repair Reserve Fund, which was created last year with voter approval. So in terms of the actual Repair Reserve Fund, it's used to pay the cost of repairs to capital improvements or equipment. And those repairs are typically things that are not annually occurring expenses. So they're sort of one-off expenses, big ticket items. Last year, when the formation of it, we talked about a generator going as an example of that. But given the length of time that's been to repair both the auditorium and the weight room, 15 and 20 years around those range, those are not annual expenses. And voter approval is required to fund the reserve as it was last year. And so the purpose of this hearing is to present the need for these repairs and to hear public comment on any concerns or questions related to those, and to make our determinations thereafter. So Dana, I know you've been on the ground literally taking pictures of the lighting in particular and the weight room. So in a nutshell, why don't you speak about the problem, the existing problem with our lighting?
When it comes to, yes, the lighting, as you can see, the things I highlighted is truly our current system is near its end of its life. You can't get replacement parts. So when a bulb goes, there are third-party vendors. And basically what we have, things have been discontinued, and that's how old our system is. The rigging on the stage, and you can't really see it, but it's what the lights are attached to. They're not even on code. And again, when this system was put in, there was no code. So that has evolved. So it's not like it was put up illegally at the time that they were installed. There was no code as to how the rigging should be. So since then, there are codes in place, and when we had our consultant come through, he pointed that out. That's if you're going to replace the lights, you're also going to need to replace the rigging, because you're going to need to put it up to code. So that's really what it comes down to it. I also, there is, as one of the additional documents, did get a letter from the consultant group, ABI Designs, highlighting the things I just talked about. That the primary dimmer that operates the stage lighting is quite old and no longer supported by the manufacturer. Highly recommending upgrading to LED, more energy efficient. And as a result, if you're going to upgrade the lights and all that, you should proceed and do it all at the same time. Well, you don't have to do it all at the same time. It can be phased in. The consultants talked about, one phase could be you're just focusing on the stage and the stage lighting, the rigging in the lights on the stage. Phase 2 could be the lights out in the auditorium. Currently, our house lights are on the sides. They hang from the sides wall, and he says he hasn't seen a system like that in a long time. They're doable, and that's what they could be there. It works, it functions, but he said, if you're going to replace them, you should replace them and do it properly. And they suggested a motorized truss. So they are more, they will hang from the ceiling, and you can move them up and down during a production. You put them down so that you can use them, and then you put them back up so they're out of place. So this letter highlights basically the things I just talked about with the auditorium. This consultant group, they're not a manufacturer. They don't sell any of this. So it's not like they're trying to sell us a product. They were literally used to come in and evaluate. And then from there, from this, it's, I've included their reports as well in terms of what needs to get replaced. And then it goes out to bid, and there's actually, vendors that we would go through. So it's not like this is AVI is a sales group that is trying to sell us products. That's not their business. Their business is to say, here's what you need, and this is what you're going to do. And we went through Mosaic because Mosaic has used AVI in a number of projects. So I figure that's, they would know who to bring in. And I also had Taylor Prosper there during the time, so that hearing from someone within the departments that would be utilizing it as well. So that's kind of like what in terms of the auditorium, why there's a need there. If you were to go through the presentation, so this is just a big picture of the auditorium. The next, next one is the gym, but I have included later on some pictures of the actual lights, and you can see what I'm talking about in terms of the need there. I mean, the one on the right, you can see lights up close. You want colored lights. There's literally a film that you can put on there, and it's something you would set once for the show, and that's it. And some of these lights are out and all that. And you can see what I was referring to for the lights on the side of the auditorium. Again, it functions, it works, but if you're going to do it, you should put them where they are properly needed. And then the other thing that we really didn't talk about is a projector included in this so that it can be used. More and more, our productions are using digital backdrops and not going through the process of building elaborate sets. They're using the digital backdrops and having an actual projector that is used for that function, so that if you're using it, you're not seeing shadows on the stage because the projector is projecting through the performers on there, but also it's a projector that can be used for presentations within the auditorium as well. So it would be a multi-function projector. But the size of the room and all that, it's not a cheap projector. It's not going to Best Buy and buying one for $500. So again, we're going to do it right. We should do it. We're going to do it. We should do it right so that it's good for another 15, 20 years.
So those three areas kind of, for me, break down into the safety, the code aspect of things, like you talked about, Dana, the rigging being pre-code, outdated, the lights beyond the aesthetics, run hot, and that's an area of concern. The cost aspect, just in having to get parts that are no longer produced are becoming a greater difficulty, and the repetitiveness of replacement of traditional bulbs versus LEDs, it's putting an encumbrance on our maintenance staff. And then the utility aspect, the other aspect of this is that the lights are run through a board from the top box, and a newer system is essentially run by an iPad, and it enables our students to kind of get more involved in the set production, behind the scenes work of our musicals and things like that. Whereas now it's a pretty rigorous process to learn that system. So ultimately, the utility, the cost, and the safety issues are what's prompting the auditorium. The other portion that we're discussing is the weight room. And this hasn't been worked on in over 15 years. What we're seeing is that the back room of the weight room, which I'm told was the original weight room, that's a confined space that is limited for what the students want to actually do in the weight room. So I think there's cardio, there's yoga they're looking to do. They're trying to use it more as part of a studio space as well. And the large kind of setup that we have isn't only outdated, but it's not really representative of what the PE teachers are trying to do in the weight room on a consistent basis. Dana, any other thoughts with regards to the weight room?
Well, I've also included, I did get a letter from the company that came in, Advantage Sports and Fitness. They seem to be the premier outfits in the area in terms of providing weight equipment. So it kind of outlines some of the things that we just talked about in terms of lifespans, about 15 years. The fact that there are, it's what students use and all that for the weight training and exercise has changed. So trying to put a weight room in together. A fitness center is probably a better way of putting it. It's not like we're building so that they're doing bench presses and military press, but creating a more all around fitness center and upgrading everything to meet the needs of our newer students. So there is a letter also included from them. They even highlights a number of schools in the area that they have worked with: Saranac Lake, Salmon River, Paul Smith College, Beekman Town. So again, they are very well known. Didn't have to, they didn't charge us to come in to do an evaluation and say, here, what we want. We're back and forth in terms of with our PE teachers, our coaches had the ability to weigh in as well, to put together a space that meets the current needs of our students from that 15 years ago.
So in terms of the aggregate, the sort of philosophy behind this approach is that the auditorium can be phased out in 2 or 3 phases. When you talk about the rigging, you talk about the control board, and the actual LED lights and the addition of new lights. So that can be done where SED approves the entirety of the project, but it's done progressively so that we maintain additional funds in the repair reserve in the event of anything coming up that we need to draw down, any sort of emergency. And then that would require SED approval. The weight room is roughly 160,000 redo. That includes all new flooring. We have a space off the side of the weight room that is used to store a whole bunch of uniforms and different things. We're looking at having that flooring done as well. There's a caged area in there that the trainers have used. We're looking at removing the cage and cleaning that area up, but having all new flooring done, it's in pretty dire need as well.
Will that, what you just had up there, Karen, will that be available to the
It is
public?
right now.
It is, yeah,
Okay.
it's on
Yeah.
Board Docs as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the time of I think when we first brought it to the board, I didn't have that breakdown from the fitness group in terms of everything that looking to add to it. All I had at that time was basically a diagram of
Right.
how it was, but then I sensed that I did get that, so that is included.
This is what you have.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's in the same exact spot as this.
Okay.
is.
Yeah, so that is included.
That's very reasonable price.
Yeah.
Questions or comments with regards to the proposed use of the reserve?
Did the consultant for the auditorium, obviously we're not going top of the line, but are we gonna get at least enough equipment that compatibility wise, we got, 15 years, we're talking about, getting another 15 years out of like the lighting and all that kind of stuff, or the system is gonna be, we're not gonna find ourselves with an incompatible system in 5 years.
No, everything, when he came in about a year ago, like I said, Taylor Prosper was there, and said, what are you looking for? You asked me and I'm like, I don't know what you need. And that's why I reached out to Brendan Gotham and Taylor. Brendan was out of town at the time, but Taylor was around and says, here's what we would like. We would like a system that is up to date, that, is kind of, we can tie it in, as Tim was saying, having it so that we could have not only the sound, but also the lights being controlled off of an iPad and a tablet. So integrating it, and that way a person can, walk around and be controlling it. When you're having shows, you can actually program. So it was, it's not like we said, oh, what's your bottom product? It's what do we need to do to upgrade this, make it energy efficient, but also ensure that we're putting in a system that's going to last, that we're not going to find that in 5 years, it's no longer serviceable. So that wasn't really part of the conversation. It was, we want to do it, we're going to do it, we want to do it right, type of deal.
Did we get more votes other than Mosaic, or was that the one that was recommended?
Well, this one's a proposal, it's not. a quote.
Right, they're not quotes, right?
Okay.
Yeah, they basically said, here's what you're looking for. They looked at all the lights and, you know, AVI was literally just, it's a consultant group.
Okay.
They said, here's the ballpark.
I see.
Yeah, they're not actually quotes, they're just ballparking it. If it gets approved, then, you know, we will use Mosaic to submit things to SED to get it as a project. And then start that process of bidding it out and then going from there. And using Mosaic as kind of like we did for capital projects.
Mosaic is the architectural firm that we've used before.
So they, I mean, they, you know, worked up a proposal that would to help us through the process so that it would go out to bid and see. You know, there are several, I'd say local within New York and Vermont that sell lighting systems. Out of, I think there's a place out of Burlington, at least one out of Syracuse, down in Albany. So I think getting multiple quotes won't be too difficult. And use Mosaic's expertise in this to guide us along the process.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Was the sound system upgraded along with the construction?
It was,
Okay.
yes.
Any questions?
Just have a comment if I may.
Please.
I had sent an email out to a couple of people. I'm not sure where it was shared or what, but had some concerns about this particular use of funds and Mr. Seymour did not disappoint in responding to my email and answered all my questions very thoroughly and plus some. So thank you very much. So I just wanted to come tonight and see what it was all about. And I have no, my only real question is there a plan to replenish the repair fund? Not as quickly as we did, the school district did last time, but probably on just a trickle basis.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
the
I
plan.
don't think the plan is to empty it and say, oh, we're done with the repair reserve, because it's, you know, we can keep it open now that the public has approved it. We can put money in it. You know, going through, because as, you know, if you look at the definition, one of the things we could have done is just, the board could have gone ahead with it, and then we would have been required to replenish what we use within 2 years.
Without a hearing.
Without a hearing.
Right.
By going through the hearing, we're not under that, oh my goodness, you gotta get it done within 2 years, but the goal is, just as the intent of the repair fund is to replenish it, so that we do have it, because we have a building condition survey coming this summer, and, you know, it'll be interesting to find out what we'll need to be doing, because that's the hope is, as things come up, that we do have those funds. One of the things we do have currently a healthy unassigned fund balance of about 27-28%. And we as a district have to show how we are going to reduce that. And one way is through this process, using it through the budgeting process, but also putting it in a repair reserve, but then also using it, not just sticking in a repair reserve and then it sits there. In fact, we have the state auditors here, and that's one of the, you know, we had that nice conversation, just that it's like, you have these repair reserves, the whole idea of those repair reserve funds or reserve funds in general, whether it's tax sorcery or EBLAR, is that you actually tap into them. Right? You don't just let them sit there for a rainy day and, you know, some of
Otherwise,
them.
it's seen, one of my concerns was the
Yes.
fact that this was sort of okay, we can only keep 4% here.
Right.
So now we'll make an account here and next year we'll vote on another one, then we'll have another account over here.
And I think
So-
there's a lot of districts that do that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's where you can redo it, but as the auditors were telling me that that's one of the things they look at is, okay, you know, when they audit a district is how many reserve funds do they have and are they being used? And if they are seeing that if the years that they're looking at is like, okay, you haven't touched these in 3 years, but yet you have them in essence maxed out, why do you have them there? You're basically you're hiding money in plain sight. So, as I was, talking to her and I said, hey, we do have a plan, we got this and, we have budgeted, some money this year for appropriated fund balance. We have budgeted money next year. The plan is to draw down those funds, in a responsible way, but to ensure that we, have money in case of a rainy day fund too, that we can tap into.
Well, thanks to the board for having this public hearing. It's transparency.
We learned from the best, Rick.
Who would that be?
All right, any other questions or comments? No, I think we can close it up, right? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sign in here, print your
Well,
name.
Not that, I mean, we'll be a separate.
So